Swedish police say a 39-year-old Uzbek man they arrested is the suspected driver of the stolen truck used to target pedestrians in the deadly Stockholm attack on Friday. Tens of thousands turn out to rally around Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Istanbul ahead of a referendum on whether to increase his powers. And French authorities uncovered tons of arms and explosives after Basque separatists ETA vowed total disarmament this Saturday. Hello and welcome to France 24. I'm Catherine Cliffords. We begin in Sweden, where police say a 39-year-old Uzbek man they're holding in custody is the suspected driver of the truck that ploughed into pedestrians in central Stockholm on Friday. 4 people were killed and 15 wounded in what authorities described as a terror attack. Swedish intelligence services said the man had no clear links to extremist groups and appeared to have acted alone. Nadia Massi reports.
The Swedish authorities are taking few risks. For now, they're releasing very little information about the suspect in Friday's ramming attack. What we know, the man detained by the police is 39 years old. He's from Uzbekistan, and although the police had intelligence on him, he had not been linked to extremist groups.
We are focusing on of course, on how he has entered the country, where has he been, what kind of contacts that he has, what can we see from his friends.
On Friday, just before 3 p.m, the suspect drove a stolen truck at high speed down one of the busiest streets in the capital. The driver hit as many passers-by as possible before ramming himself into this storefront. And police are suggesting that he may have intended to go on to carry out further attacks.
We have found something in the truck where in the driver's seat, a technical device which should not be there. I cannot at this stage say that this is a bomb.
The style of the attack is reminiscent of the latest terrorist acts in London as well as in Berlin and Nice, all of which were claimed by the Islamic State group.
We had no information that an attack like this would take place. But we are part of Europe, we are part of the world, and we are under no circumstances protected. This is international terrorism.
Sweden will observe a national day of mourning on Monday.
The Syrian airbase targeted in a US cruise missile attack is up and running once again. That's according to the governor of Homs province. The Syrian army had said Friday's US cruise missile attack caused extensive damage to the Shayrat base, though a senior military source now claims only a few out-of-service jets were damaged. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said warplanes since took off from Shayrat to carry out strikes. And meanwhile, Syrian rebels continue to leave the last opposition-held neighborhood in the city of Homs. Syria's state news agency reported over 240 rebels and their families left on Saturday under a deal allowing them to travel safely to opposition-held territory elsewhere in the country. It's the 4th batch of evacuations under that Russian-supervised deal to bring Homs city under government control.
Under the eye of the Syrian army, armed rebels prepare to evacuate the Al-War neighborhood of Homs in western Syria. These fighters and their families represent the 4th phase of an evacuation deal reached in February between rebels and the Assad regime. That agreement, brokered by Russian forces after previous deals fell apart, will see an estimated 12,000 people, 2,500 of them rebel fighters, leave the area.
It's expected that by the end of April, Al-War will be free from any arms, and the institutions of the Syrian state will be back in the neighborhood.
Homs is Syria's 3rd largest city and was once known as the capital of the rebellion. But Assad regime offensives to retake the city have gradually pushed rebel fighters from their strongholds. This evacuation represents the end of Syrian opposition in Homs. Activists call it forced displacement.
Today is the 4th batch going towards Jarablus, and we are saying goodbye to our friends. We lived for 5 years together and no one helped or supported us either in the countryside or here. I can't even talk about our situation.
While some of those leaving will be moved to Jarablus in Aleppo province to the north, others will go to Idlib, where a suspected chemical weapons strike killed scores of civilians earlier in the week. When the exodus is complete, it will have been the largest in the course of Syria's civil war, and all of Homs will be back in regime hands.
And staying in Syria, in rebel-controlled Idlib province, airstrikes have killed at least 18 people, among them 5 children. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and the Civil Defense Rescue Service reported that the strikes hit the town of Urum al-Jaws and that the death toll was likely to rise. In Istanbul, tens of thousands turned out to support Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan this Saturday. He sought votes ahead of the country's April 16th referendum on whether to increase his powers, with scrapping the post of Prime Minister among other proposed measures. Meanwhile, a smaller rival rally calling for a no vote was also held elsewhere in the city. Martin Pollard tells us more.
Tens of thousands came out to this rally in Istanbul. Many held flags reading Evet, which means yes in Turkish. They support a yes vote in the April the 16th referendum that proposes increasing the president's powers. Erdogan himself described it as a vote for a strong, modern and more stable Turkey. He also castigated European authorities for blocking rallies like this one.
Why did we face concerted efforts to prevent us from campaigning abroad? Because they are well aware that this referendum is not an ordinary election and that it is a turning point for Turkey.
This all went down well with his faithful.
We are here because we want Turkey to be independent again. Right now, that's not the case. The countries of the world are attacking us.
We'll say yes because we want Turkey to develop. And we want Recep Tayyip Erdogan to remain our leader. Without him, Turkey is not herself.
Despite the lack of coverage in the state media, the no vote has many supporters too. They include those who attended this opposition rally, also in Istanbul. They, like other Erdogan critics, argue a yes vote will reduce checks and balances and risks putting too much power in the hands of one person.
And for more on this, France 24's Ankara correspondent Jasper Mortimer spoke to us a little earlier. He said many Turks he spoke to told him Erdogan already had quite enough power for their liking.
I spent last week interviewing voters in Ankara and in Diyarbakir, the Kurdish capital of Turkey. And over again, voters would say to me, why does Erdogan need more power? As one shoe store seller in Ankara put to me, Erdogan's already got all the power. If he says he's going to do something, it happens. Why does he need extra power? And this is the big gap in the yes vote campaign. An opinion pollster found last year that Turks didn't want their president to have executive powers. The pollster said, Turks don't want a sultan. And this is at the heart of the no campaign. And next Sunday, we will see whether that is the majority view of the country.
Authorities here in France say they've uncovered some 3.5 tons of arms and explosives after Basque separatists revealed to them where to find their hidden weapon stashes. ETA vowed total disarmament on Saturday after announcing back in 2011 it was abandoning its fight for independence for the Basque region on the Spanish-French border. Madrid described the move as insufficient and called on ETA to disband completely.
It's being billed as the beginning of the end of a decades-long fight for independence. So far, 120 firearms and 3 tons of explosives have been uncovered by police after Basque separatist group ETA handed over the coordinates of its weapons cache via independent peace negotiators.
We organized 172 observers to come on site to monitor what is happening. and to verify that the French authorities have taken possession of this arsenal.
A move welcomed by the French Interior Minister.
Nos forces de l'ordre et de sécurité procèdent depuis 9 heures ce matin.
Since 9 a.m. this morning, members of law enforcement and security have been looking for the precise position of 8 related sites. Police will then secure all the sites. The destruction of the arsenal of weapons and explosives is a big step.
ETA killed over 800 people during its 43-year-long campaign to carve out its own state in northern Spain and southern France. The group has been inactive for over 5 years. Now French and Spanish authorities are calling on ETA to apologize and formally disband, the final step to bringing the conflict to a close. But ETA leaders want to see an amnesty and improved prison conditions for its some 350 jailed members. A move Madrid, which still labels ETA as a terrorist organisation, is strongly opposed to.
Thousands of Venezuelan protesters took to the streets across the country this Saturday, following days of frequent protests. Some demonstrators clashed with police, who fired tear gas and rubber bullets. Public anger has flared after the government banned the top opposition leader from running for office for 15 years on Friday. Enrique Capriles vows to run against President Maduro next year anyway. Cal Brown has this report.
Clashes broke out between demonstrators and police in Caracas on Saturday. Police fired rubber bullets and tear gas as young men threw projectiles. The violence erupted as thousands protested against the Venezuelan government's decision to ban opposition leader Enrique Capriles from holding public office for 15 years.
The ban will never have an effect. It's just meant to demoralize us, to take hope from the people. It's to keep me from being a candidate or from being president. But this isn't about a candidacy. It's about Venezuela, and we're going to fight to change our country.
Authorities are investigating Capriles for what they say are administrative irregularities, including taking allegedly suspicious donations from abroad. The government's ban would prevent Capriles from running against President Nicolas Maduro in a general election due next year. Also, the governor of the state of Miranda, Capriles is the most prominent figure outside of government. His supporters accuse Maduro of trying to eliminate the opposition by diktat.
We don't have any medicine. We don't have security. We are tired of the abuse of power that the National Guard has over every person who protests in a peaceful way. We are tired of a government that tells us what we can do, what we can't do.
Government critics fear the erosion of Venezuela's public institutions. Last week, the Supreme Court reversed its decision to strip away certain powers of the legislature.
And finally, an exhibition celebrating the Summer of Love kicked off this Friday, fittingly opening its doors where it all began, in the capital of flower power, San Francisco. 50 years have passed since the drug-filled parties of the free love era, but now Californians can take a trip back to experience 1967 once again. And Nadia Massey takes us along too.
Immerse yourself in the psychedelic world of 1960s San Francisco. It's been 50 years since the Summer of Love, when thousands spilled out onto the streets of Northern California in an explosion of music, art and drugs. And in honor of that hippie moment, this exhibit invites you to take a step back into the era of peace and love.
We made extemporaneous 100-foot-long murals to the music. As I always say, it was the most fun I've ever had out of bed. And I felt a lot of people felt that way about the whole summer.
But the organizers say the exhibit is more than just a commemoration of free love.
We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Summer of Love, but it's also a big celebration of the aesthetic, the cultural, the social and the political achievement of that time.
Much of the exhibit traces the role of the movement in the evolution of pop art. Although for many guests, it is the message of peace and compassion that is most relevant in 2017.
And especially with everything we have going on in the world today, we need more love, we need more peace, and we need more kindness.
The exhibition opens this weekend and runs through until August.
More news coming up here on France 24.